Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment, perhaps only once in a lifetime, when a person must stop pretending not to know. You can feel it now, can't you? That restless stirring, the quiet ache of conscience, the whisper that what you've built your life upon may not be quite as solid as you believed. You've dressed it up well, your distractions, your cleverness, your schedules, your explanations. You've convinced others, you've nearly convinced yourself, but not quite. There's still that gnawing suspicion that somewhere beneath the comforts and customs of the world, something deeper waits, something ancient, something unchanging, a truth not made by human hands, and therefore not subject to our votes, our moods, or our modern tastes. Are you ready for this truth? The truth, dear friends, is not soft. It is not fashioned to flatter you. It is not a warm towel for the ego or a hammock for the soul. It is a sword, a dividing thing. It cuts between what is easy and what is right, between the illusion we want and the reality we need, between who we pretend to be and who we are. The truth is this: you are not the center of the universe. You are not your desires. You are not your mistakes. And you are not your resume. You are something far more dangerous and far more sacred. You are a being stamped with the image of something eternal. You carry within you the echo of Eden and the shadow of a fall. You are capable of great good and unspeakable wrong. You are not as free as you think, but you are more responsible than you dare imagine. This truth will not flatter you, but it will set you free. You may say, I am not ready. I need more time. I must live my life first. But you are already living it. The seconds do not pause. The years do not consult you before they pass. And truth does not owe you comfort. It only offers clarity. So I ask again, not as a preacher nor a philosopher, but as one fellow traveler who has stared long into the mirror and trembled, are you ready for this truth? If you are, then let it in. Let it burn away the nonsense. Let it awaken you from the days of endless amusement. Let it teach you to love what is good, even when it hurts. Let it demand more of you than the world ever will, and give you back a soul worth having. You will not be applauded for this choice. You may be mocked. You may be lonely for a time, but you will walk in the daylight while others stumble in shadows, mistaking their chains for jewelry. And at the end of all things, when your days are spent and your breath fails you, it will not be your wealth, your comfort, or your pride that will matter. Only whether you had the courage at last to say, yes, I was ready. Truth is not comfortable. It is confronting. Truth is not comfortable. It is confronting. From the moment we begin to ask questions about ourselves and the world, we are tempted to prefer comfort over clarity. We seek answers that soothe, explanations that affirm what we already feel, and ideologies that ask nothing of us except agreement. We say we want truth, but often what we really want is relief, from doubt, from guilt, from uncertainty. And yet, the nature of truth is not to comfort, but to confront. It stands like a mirror in a bare room, offering no distractions, no flattery, only reflection. It does not bend to our preferences. It does not blush or flatter. It simply is. This is why truth, for all its power, is so often resisted. It requires something of us. It exposes things we would rather keep hidden: our vanity, our cowardice, our misplaced desires, our quiet betrayals. It points out that the stories we tell ourselves may not be entirely honest, that our reasons may be excuses, that our innocence may be ignorance, or worse, denial. There is a reason why the most dangerous lies are not the ones we hear from others, but the ones we tell ourselves. Because those lies are built with familiarity, we construct them carefully with little bricks of justification. We paint them with good intentions, we shelter them in emotion, and we call them by softer names: my truth, my journey, my way. But the truth, the real truth, is not yours or mine. It is not up for personalization. It is not tailored to your comfort or curated to your experience. It exists independent of us, and that makes it humbling, that makes it hard. To encounter the truth is to be disrupted. It is to be stripped of illusions. It is to realize that you are not as good as you hoped, not as strong as you posed, not as right as you once insisted. It breaks your pride, not because it seeks to humiliate you, but because it seeks to remake you. It is not an attack, but an awakening, and awakenings are rarely gentle. Consider how often people avoid truth, even in the smallest things. How difficult it is for someone to admit, "I was wrong." How stubbornly we defend choices that have clearly caused harm. How easily we surround ourselves with voices that echo our own opinions. The comfort of agreement is so much more appealing than the confrontation of being corrected. But a life insulated from confrontation is a life slowly severed from truth. People will often say, "Well, that's just how I feel," as if emotion were the final authority. But the truth does not depend on how you feel about it. The sun does not cease to burn because you are cold. Gravity does not pause because you choose to leap. And moral reality, right and wrong, good and evil, does not shift with your preferences. It is not cruel for truth to confront you. It is cruel to pretend that it never should. Truth challenges us because it asks for alignment. It demands we either conform to it or rebel against it. But it leaves no room for apathy. It calls us out of ourselves, out of our self-made shelters, and into a reality that is bigger, older, and more binding than our personal stories. It reminds us that the universe does not revolve around our feelings, that virtue is not subjective, that love does not mean indulgence, and that sincerity is not the same as being right. Most people are not destroyed by evil, they are distracted by ease. They are numbed by comforts, entertained by constant noise, absorbed in self-affirming narratives. Truth threatens that, it breaks the spell. It tells us we are more than consumers, more than citizens, more than personalities with opinions. We are souls, and souls must deal in things eternal. Souls cannot thrive on lies. They may survive for a time in distraction, but not in peace. When truth confronts us, it often comes as pain. It is the pain of realizing we have wasted years chasing approval. The pain of knowing we hurt others while justifying ourselves. The pain of facing our failures, not just circumstantial ones, but moral ones. The kind we cannot explain away with cleverness or psychology. But such pain is not punishment. It is invitation. It is the beginning of healing. A wound must first be exposed before it can be treated, and truth is the light that reveals what festers in darkness. Still, people fear it. They fear what they might lose: reputation, comfort, relationships, perhaps even identity. But what is the worth of a life preserved in delusion? What do we profit if we gain the whole world but lose what is most real within us? Comfort may feel like peace, but it is often just sedation. It keeps us from the very transformation that truth was sent to begin. You can tell the measure of a person not by how they respond to praise, but how they respond to correction. A wise person welcomes confrontation with truth because they know that to be wrong is not the greatest danger, but to stay wrong, unchallenged, unrepentant is. Truth is not against you, it is for you, but not the version of you that hides and fears and pretends. It is for the person you were meant to be, the one buried beneath layers of compromise and self-deceit. And so truth confronts us, not to shame us, but to save us, not to accuse, but to awaken, not to crush, but to cut away what is false. It does not pat you on the head, it pulls you to your feet. It will not always make you feel good, but it will make you real. You are not the center, but you are accountable. You are not the center, but you are accountable. There is a strange illusion that has taken root in the heart of the modern world, a subtle lie whispered through culture, education, entertainment, and even religion, the idea that the self is supreme, that your thoughts, your feelings, your desires are the guiding stars by which all truth must be measured, that your comfort, your opinion, your story is the central axis upon which everything else must revolve. But this is not liberation, it is delusion, and though it is dressed in the language of empowerment, it quietly robs you of reality. The truth, if we dare receive it, is far simpler and far more difficult. You are not the center. The world does not exist to accommodate your desires. The universe does not orbit your personal truth. Other people are not supporting characters in the drama of your becoming. You were born into a story already underway. A world older than your memory, richer than your imagination, and bound by laws, moral, natural, and spiritual, that were not written by you and cannot be rewritten at your convenience. This is not an insult to your worth. On the contrary, it is the beginning of your dignity. For in recognizing that you are not the center, you begin to understand what it means to truly matter. You are not random. You are not noise. You are not a fleeting accident of biology and chemistry. You are a creature shaped by a will beyond your own, born with purpose and destined for responsibility. That is why your actions matter. That is why your choices echo, because you are not supreme, but you are accountable. Accountability is not a punishment. It is the necessary consequence of meaning. Only things that matter are held accountable. We do not hold shadows responsible for the darkness, or pebbles responsible for the tide. But we do hold people responsible, because we know instinctively that they are not mere products of instinct or fate. They choose, they decide, they know, and therefore they are answerable. There is something both terrifying and noble in this. Terrifying because it means we are not victims of the cosmos, not puppets of history, not innocent bystanders in the unfolding of our own lives. We are actors, participants, with power, and noble because it means we are not irrelevant. Our words carry weight, our silences speak volumes, our betrayals cut deep, and our faithfulness heals. Yet we are often tempted to deny this. We blame our flaws on others, our upbringing, our culture, our stress, our wounds. And while these factors may shape us, they do not dissolve our responsibility. The line between good and evil does not run between nations or ideologies. It runs through every human heart. It is tempting to imagine that our failures are simply the result of bad circumstances or bad luck. But deep down we know better. We know when we have chosen comfort over courage. We know when we have lied, not to protect others, but to protect ourselves. We know when we have turned away from what is right, not in ignorance, but in rebellion, and so accountability becomes a kind of moral gravity. You can ignore it for a time. You can float along in distraction, claiming that nothing really matters and no one really knows what's right. But eventually, gravity asserts itself. Reality always reasserts itself. And when it does, you are left with the inescapable truth. You are not the center, but you are answerable. This does not mean that you must bear the weight of the world. You are not responsible for all things, but you are responsible for your things, your words, your habits, your integrity, your choices, and perhaps the most radical truth of all, you are even responsible for what you love. For love is not just a feeling, it is a moral orientation. What you love shapes what you become. If you love power, you will grow cruel. If you love pleasure above all, you will grow hollow. If you love only yourself, you will become a prisoner within your own soul. Accountability asks us to examine what we cherish, not just what we do. because it is from the abundance of the heart that actions arise. You are not merely a reactor to circumstances, but a chooser of desires. You become what you worship, and though you may not bow to idols of wood and stone, you still worship beauty, fame, independence, control. The human heart is always placing something at the center. The question is not whether you are the center, but what you have placed there instead of yourself, and whether it is worthy. Accountability is a gift as much as it is a burden. It means that your life can change, that you are not locked into your worst moment, not fated to your weakest day. Because if you are responsible, then you can repent. You can begin again. You can choose differently. No one is beyond the reach of redemption, but redemption begins with acknowledgement, with the quiet, courageous admission, "It was me. I did it. I knew better." That is not weakness. That is strength. That is the kind of honesty that restores the soul and reorients the life. In a world so eager to blame systems, ideologies, and institutions, it feels almost rebellious to say, "I am responsible." But that rebellion is the beginning of freedom. It breaks the chains of victimhood, it ends the cycle of blame, it invites growth, maturity, restoration. To say you are accountable is to say you are capable, capable of more, capable of better, capable of being changed, not by the force of others, but by the force of truth embraced. And if there is anything more dangerous than denying the truth, it is denying your part in it. When we pretend that we are always the exception, always the misunderstood party, always the one harmed, but never the one harming, we cut ourselves off from the very power that would heal us. Accountability is not the voice of accusation. It is the voice of invitation. It calls you out, not to condemn you, but to call you higher, to tell you that your life is not an accident, that your choices matter, that your soul matters, that you were made not to drift but to stand. Time waits for no one. Truth will not wait either. Time waits for no one. Truth will not wait either. There is a quiet deception we all entertain at some point in life, the notion that there is still time. Time to fix what we've broken. Time to become who we were meant to be. Time to stop lying to ourselves. We imagine life as a wide, generous field stretching into the horizon, a place where we can wander and return at will, where the decisions we delay will still be waiting patiently when we're ready to make them. But time is not that kind. It does not pause at the sound of your regret. It does not freeze when you're uncertain. It moves relentlessly, with or without your permission. We live in a culture addicted to postponement. We call it patience, but often it is simply fear dressed in virtue. We delay confronting uncomfortable truths under the guise of waiting for the right moment. We say we'll come clean tomorrow. We say we'll get serious about our integrity, our relationships, our souls, just not today. And so we drift, not because we lack direction, but because we are waiting for a feeling that will never come. The perfect time to be honest, the painless moment to change, the costless road to transformation. But the truth has never agreed to wait for your convenience. It will not accommodate your schedule. It does not stand silently by while you bury yourself in distractions, hoping to delay its arrival. It knocks, whether you are ready or not. It speaks, even when you've filled your ears with noise. It reveals, even when you close your eyes. And if you ignore it long enough, it will eventually stop whispering and start breaking. Time is the currency in which truth is spent. Each day, each hour, each breath is a chance to align your life with what is real. But when that time passes, it does not return. Every opportunity not taken is not just a moment missed. It is a part of you unformed, a virtue undeveloped, a courage unrealized. We are not promised an endless supply of chances. There is a window for awakening, and that window narrows as the soul becomes accustomed to slumber. The tragedy of delay is not simply that we run out of time. It is that, while we wait, we change. The longer you resist truth, the more practiced you become at living without it. What once troubled your conscience eventually becomes background noise. What once pierced your heart becomes something you can rationalize. Habits settle in, compromises harden, the muscles of moral sensitivity begin to atrophy. And before you know it, the person you hope to become is no longer just delayed. It has been displaced. We speak as though truth is something we can reach for when it suits us, as if it were a book on a shelf we can open when the mood strikes. But truth is not a passive object. It is alive, active, and moving. When it calls, it is not merely offering information. It is demanding a response. It asks something of you now, not later. And the longer you ignore that summons, the more your capacity to answer it fades. People rarely wake up one day having decided to be false. More often, they slide into falsehood a day at a time. Each delay, each postponement, each moment of avoidance becoming a brick in the wall between them and what is real. They tell themselves they'll face it next month, next year, once the stress passes, once the job settles, once they've had more fun, more success, more life. But the trouble is, life does not pause for you to catch up. And while you wait for the right moment to pursue what matters, the moments that actually matter are slipping away. You may say you are not ready, but readiness is not a precondition for truth. It is the result of meeting it. You do not become ready by waiting. You become ready by stepping into what is required, even when it costs you comfort, even when it demands repentance, even when it breaks something in you that you thought you needed to survive. Truth shapes those who respond to it. It leaves behind those who delay. There is something dangerously soothing about believing you have more time. It lulls you into thinking that there will always be a tomorrow, always another chance to change, to confess, to begin. But you do not know how many tomorrows are left. You do not know which goodbye will be your last. You do not know what part of your soul may grow callous while you wait. And that is why truth does not wait. In the end, what we choose to do with our time is a declaration of what we believe is real. If you spend your hours chasing distraction, your life will become distraction. If you spend your days avoiding confrontation, your heart will grow timid. If you spend your years postponing truth, then one day you may wake up unable to recognize it at all. You will not lose truth because it disappeared. You will lose it because, slowly and quietly, you trained yourself to live without it. The urgency of truth is not about panic. It is about priority. It is about realizing that the things that matter most cannot be shelved indefinitely. That truth, once known, must be acted upon. That light, once seen, must be followed. You do not have to have all the answers. You do not need to feel brave. But you do need to begin. Because though time may seem generous, it is also precise. It will not give you more than you have been given. And truth, for all its grace, will not chase you forever.